How you doing, guys? I know on this channel I talk a lot about preparing for disaster situations that are very extreme, whether that be economic collapse or something like that. Even something like a hurricane or something like that is a relatively extreme disaster scenario or shit hit the fan scenario. And even though for some situations or some locations where you live, or in some times like today, some of those may actually be fairly likely, it's important to remember that preparedness is something that you should keep in mind for all aspects of your life. And it's actually the little things that are going to happen way more often than the huge disasters. Because, I mean, the world has been through a lot in the past, 100 years or so. But especially in the United States, if you look back for the past 100 years, there's been very few serious disasters. Most of them have been localized things. So while there's a good chance that at some point in your life, you will have to go through some sort of major to semi-major shit hit the fan scenario, it's almost guaranteed that you'll have multiple times of just little things that could cause you a lot of problems, cost you a lot of money, or generally just be a pain in the ass if you're not ready for them. So there's a lot of simple things you can do to be prepared on a day-to-day basis to really make your life a lot easier, save you money, just everything goes smoother, and just to be prepared in general. Because preparedness is about preparing for the unknown, even if that's the little things, because those are much more likely to happen anyway. So this video is about 5 simple things you can do that will help you be prepared on an everyday basis. This isn't the type of things that really are probably going to matter for like an economic collapse or a huge disaster situation. Some of them will, but most of them are just those day-to-day things that are really going to make a difference between being just a person going about their life and being reactive to things happening to you, and someone who's proactive and prepares for them ahead of time. And that's really what preparedness is about. It's about being proactive and about being self-sufficient. So here's 5 things that you can do to help be prepared for everyday life. Number 1, the gas tank in your car. I would never let it get below a quarter tank. If possible, I would never let it get below a half a tank. If you drive a lot, it's probably going to be easier just to do a quarter tank because you don't want to be filling it up constantly. But if you don't drive that much, it wouldn't be hard to keep your gas tank at half full, especially if it's a larger gas tank. This can save you a lot of trouble. There's been countless times in my life where I've had to go somewhere and realize that the gas in my tank is not going to get me there, and then you have to run and fill up. And even something like that, it could save you a lot of time, maybe like a job interview or picking someone else up that you need to from the airport or something like that, where just having the gas in the tank can get you ready to go and save you a lot of headache. And in other situations where maybe you did have to bug out or something serious or flee from a wildfire or a hurricane, having at least a half tank of gas in there when maybe you don't have the time to fill up more is really going to help out and could make the difference between life or death in some situations. The next one is keep your devices charged. Whenever you have the opportunity, plug them in and get a charge, because we use those devices all the time now, whether that's a camera, whether that's a cell phone, or any type of equipment like that. You want to really have those devices ready to go. You don't want to look down and see that your cell phone is about to die in the event of emergency when maybe you don't have the opportunity to charge it, or that your camera is dead when you're being pulled over by the police, or there's some sort of event happening and you need to record that for your own safety and for the safety of others and maybe for legal reasons or whatever. And you just always want to have your devices charged, and if there's a power outage, you want them to be able to last as long as possible on the juice that they already have and not worry about, well, shit, I could have been charging this all morning and now it's dead. So whenever you get the opportunity, go ahead and charge your devices up whenever you can, as often as possible. That may decrease your battery life if you're a real technophile and you say, oh, you have to have the optimal draining and recharging thing, whatever. They're getting a lot better with those technologies nowadays, and a lot of stuff like cell phones, you really don't keep them for more than a couple years anyway. So I just always top it off when I get the chance, because it's much worse to be without something like that when you really need it than to maybe have the battery last an extra 6 months or something like that, in my opinion, and especially if you have a cheap cell phone. Another one is make sure you carry a basic EDC of some kind. I'm not talking about a huge hit pack loaded with everything under the sun, like nothing fancy has with spoons and everything like that, but just a couple basic things can really make the difference in a lot of situations. One thing I always carry is a knife. That is pretty simple to me. Whether you want to make that a multi-tool and expand your capabilities even more, that's great. And then I would carry some sort of light, whether that's a flashlight or even if your phone, another reason to keep it charged. A lot of smartphones have a flashlight feature on them that's pretty bright and can last for a while if your battery is charged. So that's another option there. And just a few basic things like that. What you decide to carry is up to you. It would depend on what kind of situations you're going to be facing throughout a normal day. And some may make a lot of sense for some people and be totally useless for other people in most days. So just look at what you go through, the kind of little things that happen on a day-to-day basis, and carry the stuff that you'll need for those, because it can make a lot of difference. Another one, and this is big, a lot of people don't deal with this aspect of preparedness, and that is finances, and this is keep a cash emergency fund. And I would keep at least $500, if at all possible, up to 6 months of living expenses. I wouldn't keep more than that in cash, but there's all sorts of reasons why. And a lot of people will say, oh, you're missing out on returns if you keep stuff sitting there in cash. You could be getting the market normal return rate of 7%, blah, blah, blah. Someone could break in and steal it, blah, blah, blah. Look, when you're talking about $500 or $1,000, the opportunity cost for the interest that you may be able to earn on that, if everything goes right, is completely worth it, just to have that money in hand no matter what happens. In serious situations like economic collapse, we've seen in other countries that the first thing to go is the automated electronic banking systems, the ATMs and everything. And at first, even though the currency will usually eventually become worthless, in the beginning, cash is extremely valuable. It's hard to get, and that's the only thing that people are taking. So you want to have some cash on hand. For practical, everyday type situations, it's just useful to have on hand. Maybe your card's not working, maybe even it doesn't even necessarily have to be something bad, but like an investment opportunity comes up, or you find something for sale that's worth, or selling for way less than it's worth, and you know you could flip it and make a profit, and you have that money there cash in hand. And the convenience of having in cash is if you just put it somewhere, hide it somewhere safe, it's well worth the small risk that if you're robbed, someone may find it, or that your house may burn down, or that you know, the little bit that you lose due to inflation. When you're only talking about $500 or $1,000, I really don't think that's really a huge thing that you should be concerned about. The last one, and this is something, just another normal thing for everyday life, get some spare keys made for everything that is important. And ideally, leave them with someone else, not in your house or in your car where they could get locked in anyway, or at the very least, split them up into different places, maybe even hide them somewhere secure outside your home in maybe a combination lockbox or something. But this is something that if you go get a spare key made at like Lowe's or something like that, or Ace Hardware, it's only going to be a couple bucks. But if you have to pay a locksmith to do it, or something like that in an event that you actually do get locked out or you lose your key, not only is it going to be a colossal hassle because you're probably right in the middle of just your normal day, maybe even something more important, but you're also going to have to pay a lot. At the very least, something like $80, upwards of a couple hundred depending. Now, if you have a key for your car that has a chip in it like a lot of them do today, it's going to be a little bit more expensive, probably somewhere around $30 to $50, but to get a copy made. But if you have to get that key made after you lose it, it's going to be even more expensive, and it's just too easy to get them made now and too cheap. And it will really save you some heartache in the future to have a couple extra keys lying around. Even if the only reason is to give to a neighbor when you're out of town who's going to come watch your pets or something like that, and you have it ready to go and don't have to worry about doing that at the last minute. It's a real simple thing you can do that will just save you a lot of heartache and possibly money in everyday life. So let me know some other tips that you guys have for just normal everyday preparedness type stuff like that. I'm not talking about shit hit the fan. I'm not talking about economic collapse. I'm talking about simple common sense things that you can do that will really make a difference on day-to-day life. So let me know if you have any tips like that and put them in the comments. Thanks.